Tonight on the broadcast, the government projected coronavirus cases in Kenya will hit 10,000 by the end of this month. With only 234 confirmed cases in the country, Dr. Patrick Amoth is mathematically short by 9,766. But what informed that statement? The power of the podium and the scrutiny of the press has created a network of information regarding COVID-19 in Kenya. But many Kenyans remain skeptical on whether the questions are answered or whether the right questions are always put.
We have done modeling to see the kind of numbers that we are going to have. As Waziri said, this virus is not following a particular trend. Our modeling puts us at having about 1,000 cases by the first week of April, and we postulate that we'll have 5,000 cases by mid-April and potentially 10,000 cases by 30th of April. So those are the figures that we are working with in terms of how we preposition our personal protective equipment, how we preposition our test kits, how we preposition our human resource, and how we preposition our isolation and quarantine facilities.
The broadcast also encompasses the global reaction of the United States of America's cutting of funds of the World Health Organization. Is the Beijing-Washington global rivalry or the scramble for global dominance affecting relations with the United Nations World Health Organization? We have an update from our partner station, The Voice of America, from Washington, D.C. in the United States of America.
With support from the people and government of the United States, WHO works to improve the health of many of the world's poorest and most vulnerable people. WHO is not only fighting COVID-19, we're also working to address polio, measles, malaria, Ebola, HIV, tuberculosis, malnutrition, cancer, diabetes, mental health, and many other diseases and conditions. We also work with countries to strengthen health systems and improve access to life-saving health services. WHO is reviewing the impact of our work of any withdrawal of US funding, and will work with our partners to fill any financial gaps we face and to ensure our work continues uninterrupted.
Also tonight, the global surge in domestic violence linked to lockdowns imposed by governments around the world in response to COVID-19. We'll be speaking to the Executive Director of the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, here in Kenya regarding that aspect. Also tonight on News Compass, we'll be speaking about the crisis in the ruling Jubilee Party. How will President Uhuru Kenyatta head off concerns of constant rejection raised by his deputy, William Ruto, amid succession plan and what appears to be simmering relations in the ruling party in the country? Day 16 of April 2020. I am Ayub Abdikadir Abdi. Our sign anchor tonight is Joyce Wairemo. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Welcome to the broadcast. The short SMS code is 40920. Later in the broadcast, we'll be talking to the Executive Director of Federation of Women Lawyers in the country, FIDA, regarding a surge in domestic violence cases in the country, and she is standing by for that interview. In regard to the crisis in the ruling Jubilee Party and the uncertain political times in the ruling party in the country, the former Deputy Speaker, that is Honorable Farah Maalim, will be joining us shortly after the broadcast here on the program. Thank you for joining us. The government has identified needy households in Nairobi County that will continue to receive weekly stipend in a pilot program that began on Wednesday this week to cushion the most affected by COVID-19 pandemic. This comes even as the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the country rose to 234, with 9 more confirmed cases in the last 24 hours by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Dana Rachel Mbugwa has that update.
With a confirmed number of cases rising by the day, President Uhuru Kenyatta has today instilled more measures that will aid in combating the spread of COVID-19 in the country. In addition to the COVID-19 fund, 8.5 billion shillings has been released to the elderly and the vulnerable groups under the Ministry of Labour's cash transfer program. An additional 500 million shillings has been spared for persons with severe disabilities.
We have identified needy households in Nairobi that will be the inaugural recipients of the weekly COVID-19 support stipend. The piloting of the program started yesterday, and some of the initial beneficiaries have received their stipend.
With the county governments receiving an additional 5 billion shillings for healthcare workers and the vulnerable, the counties will further receive a 3-month waiver from the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, to locally source protective gear.
I do not want to hear of needless delays or frustrations caused of well-designed appropriate measures that Kenyans in the civil and private sector have designed to assist their fellow citizens. We must expedite our ability to deliver this assistance to our people in the shortest possible time.
The measures come amidst the number of confirmed cases rising, with 9 more positive cases confirmed, bringing the total to 234 persons, with 704 tests done in the last 24 hours.
Our testing capability has gone up dramatically, and we have tested over 10,000 individuals. This week, the Ministry of Health has received more testing reagents that will allow us to upscale our testing capacity, starting with targeted areas.
President Kenyatta has further condemned assault of police officers, as well as police officers breaching their duties during the curfew hours.
You are meant to serve the people and to protect them, not to enable the selfish few to endanger the rest of Kenyans. I also want to condemn in the strongest way possible those of us who can assault or interfere with law enforcement officers doing their job.
The president has continued to encourage local manufacturing, especially with protective gear, asking manufacturers to adhere to quality standards and guidelines provided. Accordingly, the government has put in place a post-COVID-19 economic plan that may see suspension of debts owed to countries in a bid to cushion the country from harsh economic times. Kenya has so far reported a total of 11 deaths, with 53 people having recovered. Diana Rachel Mbogwa, Ebru TV.
Now, a Rome-based Catholic priest, Richard Onyango Oduor, who is accused of knowingly spreading the coronavirus pandemic in the country, has been released on $500,000 bond after denying charges of spreading the disease. And the High Court here in Nairobi also deferred murder charges against police officer Emmanuel Ambunya Oyombe, who is accused of killing Leeds University student Carlington David Minor until he undergoes a mental assessment at the Mathare Hospital here in Nairobi County. Our Courts Affairs reporter Jeff Chaimba has that update here on the broadcast.
Richard Oduor Onyango, a Rome-based Catholic priest, after recovering from the deadly coronavirus, was on Thursday arraigned before Justice Martha Nanjushi to answer to the charges of negligence. The man of God was accused of violating the government directive to undergo mandatory quarantine following the outbreak of the coronavirus in the country, which has so far claimed 11 lives and more than 234 Kenyans infected. Oduor, however, denied the charges, however faced a heavy penalty before his release.
The accused person may be released on a bond of 500,000 shillings, a surety of similar amount. In the alternative, you will deposit a cash bill of 150,000 Kenya shillings and one contact person. The contact person shall be verified by the office of the DCI.
Besides being released, Oduor will have to undergo another 14-day quarantine.
The accused person will be placed on mandatory quarantine for a period of 14 days at St. Joseph's, St. Francisca, Sisters of St. Joseph, from today, the 16th day of April.
Father Oduor arrived in the country from Rome on March 12th and stayed at the Utawala Catholic Parish in Nairobi until March 13th, when he left for Kisumu using public means. He slept at a guest house in Milimani in Kisumu town and proceeded to Genya in Siaya County the following day and later to his parents' home in Ambira village by public means. The man of God spent 2 nights at Sega Parish within the county before boarding a bus to Kisumu International Airport, where he took a flight to Nairobi on March 16th. He then proceeded to the Utawala Parish, where he stayed until March 20th before going to the clinic and then to Mbagathi, where he tested positive. Still in the corridors of justice, Justice Ngenya Mashara has ordered for the further detention of a police officer accused of shooting and killing a Leeds University student, Carlton Maina. Justice Ngenya Mashara ordered the accused person, Emmanuel Ambunya Oyombe, to undergo a mental assessment test at the Mathari National Hospital before he can be allowed to take plea.
So we shall defer the plea to next week on Thursday, the 23rd of April, 2020. As regards to the detention or further detention before the plea is taken of the accused person, I've directed that he should be remanded at Kilimani Police Station.
The police officer is attached at the Kenyatta National Hospital Police Post, where on 22nd of December 2018, he's accused of shooting and killing Carlton Maina, who was walking back home after watching football match at the Laini Saba in Kibra. Carlton Maina had returned to the country from West Yorkshire for Christmas holiday before his dreams of becoming an electrical engineer were cut short by a police officer. It's 2 years since the DCA officers began investigations into the murder of Carlton Maina, where the family until now is crying for justice. The fate of Emmanuel Oyombe, who is the key suspect, by now lies in the hands of Justice Ngenya Mashara. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Khaemba.
Now, the Kenya Tea Development Agency officials could be arrested if the Ministry of Agriculture finalizes on investigations against officials believed to have exploited tea and coffee farmers in the country. The Ministry of Agriculture says it has introduced a raft of measures geared towards the locking of the agency out of tea auction process in the country.
The ghosts surrounding the tea sector in the country have come back to haunt the Kenya Tea Development Agency. This is after it emerged that the agency has allegedly been exploiting farmers.
C. Retention of large amounts of tea farmers' money, usually deducted at source, and the misapplication of these monies by KTDA, among others, with little or no demonstrable direct benefits to tea farmers. Holding large amounts of farmers' money in low-interest earning fixed deposit accounts in commercial banks, while syndicating expensive commercial loans for the same tea farmers.
Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya has revealed that the ministry is set to look for individuals believed to have gobbled up monies belonging to farmers.
Even some of that money, we can recover it. We follow up those people who disappeared with money. I know there are some who disappeared with money and the officers would visit them. Then they come back, they are not talking the same language after visiting those people who disappeared with farmers' money. We want to trace that and see how we can recover that money and set up this stabilization fund that was proposed in the President's directive. And look at the history of how KTDA was created. Remember, some of the assets that sit with the KTDA are actually public assets. They were owned by government and they were handed over. How have they been used? Have they been used for the benefit of the farmer? In what state are they now? Earnings of farmers over the years, where is this money? Can it be traced back?
The ministry has proposed a raft of measures geared towards suppressing the influence that KTDA has over the sector.
There will be no trending for coffee through manual dropping of the hammer. We want people to be able to buy or sell from wherever they are. This, again, is going to bring transparency in the trading and also reduce conflict of interest and the opaqueness that has been depressing the tea prices.
However, the regulations will take 4 to 5 months until it is implemented. If the regulations see the light of day, it will be a relief for tea and coffee farmers in the country. Abdikadir Hashim, Ebru TV.
Abdi, thank you so much for that update. Now, the UN last week called for measures to address a horrifying global surge in domestic violence directed towards women and girls across the world, linked to lockdowns imposed by governments responding to COVID-19 pandemic. The combination of economic and social stresses brought about by the pandemic as well as restrictions on movement have dramatically increased the numbers of women and girls facing abuse in almost all countries in the world. However, even before the global spread of the novel coronavirus, statistics indicated a third of women around the world experienced some form of violence in their lives. With a cut down on government services and strained institutions in the country, how will this be addressed in Kenya? We are joined live by way of Skype by the Executive Director of the Federation of Women Lawyers in the country, Anne Ireri. Your time is appreciated. Thank you for joining us, Executive Director of the Federation of Women Lawyers in the country. In regard to the surge of global assault and the Kenyan case of domestic violence, how is that matter addressed at a time when the government institutions are preoccupied with a response in regard to COVID-19?
Thank you very much for having me. And as you rightfully pointed out, we are having a surge in the cases that affect SGBV, and they're very much at the heart of the government response. What we have seen, even through the Chief Justice, under the leadership of the NCAJ, which is the National Council on Administration of Justice, there's recognition that there is an increase in these numbers. We saw last week the Honorable CJ alluding that we are having close to 36% of all criminal matters reported during this period of the pandemic being SGBV cases, that's sexual and gender-based violence cases. So I can confirm, coming from FIDA, that the government has taken note of this, and it's working alongside non-state actors such as FIDA to be able to see how to have service delivery for those who are affected.
Okay, in regard to that, and at a time when it appears that state institutions are overstretched, overwhelmed, and inundated, how do they then prioritize a response in regard to the upsurge or the exponential growth of these cases in the country so that they get the adequate, needed attention?
What happens in terms of gender-based violence, it's important to appreciate that no one institution can deal with this alone. And so as non-state actors, what we are doing is, one, a lot of advocacy to be able to have the government take note of this issue, but we are also assisting in having the public report the cases. For instance, as FIDA, we have launched today a toll-free number, that's 0800 720 501, where we are already receiving numerous calls from the public all across Kenya who are reporting cases of gender-based violence, and where we can, we are referring cases to the nearest police station and working alongside even the ODPP to see how quickly these cases can be processed through the system and pleas taken. So we are assisting the government where we can, because we do understand the stretch that is currently there with the services. It's
hard, isn't it, for the victims to report cases of domestic violence at a time when there are restrictions in terms of movements imposed by the government in 4 counties here across the country: Nairobi, Kwale, Mombasa, and in Kilifi counties. What is the method then? What's the channel of communication in this regard for the victims to report cases of violence in the country?
Thank you. Yes, I do agree with you. As we have seen, the curfew restrictions are actually complicating matters. However, what we reiterate and what has been said by the government is that these cases fall within what they are calling serious crimes, and so the police stations are ready to process these cases. What we are advocating and the messaging we are trying to pass across to the public is, as soon as these cases are reported, let them not wait for too long. As soon as it is daybreak, let them report them to the nearest police stations. Let them look as FIDA and other institutions who are willing and ready to assist them to ensure that they are able to avail these cases to the nearest police stations. I can confirm we've had a discussion with the Inspector General of Police, who has also reiterated that they are on standby and have taken these cases very seriously.
In regard to still on that matter, because it's very important and the approach can be from various perspectives, there is already an underreporting in cases of domestic violence against women across the country. And the environment is really ripe for this to happen again within the confines of family institution level across the country, with already cases of limitation on women and girls' access to phones and helplines, which has been the disruption point of continuity in terms of the cases that receive. Are you likely to prophesize that cases of domestic violence are likely to lessen because of these restrictions, which are equally, in some way, a violation of constitutional right in a liberal state like Kenya?
I think for me, two things. One, increase in reporting also signals an increase in awareness so that people know that they're violated, it is wrong, they need to report. However, we are trying to use various channels, especially with communities and with families, to pass the message across and let them not wait until it is very serious. As soon as you experience or you feel you're in a relationship that could be abusive, it's better or it's best to get out or get help as soon as you can so that we don't have situations where we are dealing, unfortunately, with fatalities or very serious bodily harm that has been inflicted. So where you can seek help, and part of what FIDA is offering is also counseling services where families can reach out, because we do appreciate the pandemic has come with different levels of stress. We are seeing reduced earnings for families, the force that they have to stay together within these curfew hours, social distancing. So we do appreciate that the pandemic restrictions are increasing the stresses on households, but we are trying to see how best to help Kenyans to work along this. So counseling is one way where they can call us and we are able to actually speak to them before the violence gets out of hand.
Okay, it's equally a concern for the United Nations with the SecGen, Antonio Guterres, calling on for partnership with the UN agencies in regard to violence against women and girls across the country. What's your point of interaction then and the convergence in regard to the institutions that are global in terms of linking up, and say that you do that via maybe because of the COVID-19 pandemic impact in terms of video links and reaching out to other institutions which are partner institutions in lessening these numbers even at a time when we continue to be in the midst of the calamity?
Yes, I think what we've seen in Kenya is the messaging of the United Nations Secretary General has been translated and localized to the Kenyan context. We are aware that the UN in Kenya is also taking this issue very seriously. They are actively supporting government agencies to be able to address this issue. So that is very good, and we appreciate that.
Okay, and in any given case, it's a case of course, the perfect storm as termed by the United Nations for controlling violent behavior behind closed doors, which now, of course, is very impacting on this society. And Ireri, thank you so much for joining us, the Executive Director of the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, here in Kenya. Your time is appreciated. Asante sana. Good evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, as part of its public health response to COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization is working with partners to address myths and provides guidance during the pandemic. Fear and misinformation have generated a dangerous myth that consuming alcohol can kill the COVID-19 virus. It doesn't, however. Kenneth Kazungu now explains how the move by Nairobi County Governor Mike Sonko to distribute alcohol led to public uproar, especially on social media platforms.
Giving some small bottles of Hennessy in the food pack, the package which we give to our people.
Now that video by Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko continues to elicit mixed reactions home and abroad, given that the sentiments come from a man who heads Kenya's capital city and yields a lot of influence. But is it true that drinking alcohol can kill the novel coronavirus?
I think from the research which has been conducted by the World Health Organization and various health organizations, it has been revealed that alcohol plays a very major role in killing the coronavirus.
Now, we dug through the internet to find that research that Governor Mike Sonko was referring to. We couldn't find any. What we found, however, was this Facebook post by the World Health Organization, which was posted on 29th of March this year, which says that drinking alcohol does not protect you against COVID-19 and can be dangerous. Frequent or excessive alcohol consumption can increase your risk of health problems. Let us now assume the governor did not actually mean drinking the alcohol, but using it maybe for washing their hands or as hand sanitizers. That still would not work because the World Health Organization, the Ministry of Health here in Kenya, and the Center for Disease Control recommends the use of alcohol-based hand sanitizers with greater than 60% alcohol as the preferred form of hand hygiene in killing germs and pathogens. On the flip side, the cognac Governor Sonko is giving out only has 40% alcohol content. This was further put to the fore by the cognac manufacturer, who confirmed that their brand cannot be remedy for coronavirus. We also spoke to a doctor via Skype, and here is what he said. And can that act as a hand sanitizer?
Well, I've never seen, I don't know, probably I'm not an alcoholic, but I've never seen an alcohol drink with more than 80%. Apart from that, the hand sanitizers are made with isopropyl. Isopropyl is it's an alcohol content that you can find actually 70 to 80% of such. But you see now the ethanol, it's not easy to find ethanol of. That is the one that the alcohol content that is available in the whiskeys and everything, and the other drinks. It's rare to find 80%, 60 to 80% of that. So I don't think it's possible. And if it's possible, again, it's not healthy in your body.
Whether the governor said it from a point of ignorance or to gain popularity, such sentiments have the potential of moving masses from the real and effective measures of combating coronavirus. Ayub.
Thank you, Kenneth. An upbeat assessment in regard to COVID-19 and the guideline offered by the World Health Organization. Thank you so much for that update, Kenneth. Now, there is enough food for Kenyans in case the government decides to enforce a nationwide lockdown because of COVID-19. According to Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, the country has enough resources to ensure Kenyans do not starve during the pandemic. His sentiments come as 9 more COVID-19 cases were confirmed by President Uhuru Kenyatta with restrictions in the counties of Nairobi, Kilifi, Kwale and Mombasa.
Wakulima, ukitembea kwa wakulima huko kwa magala saa utakuta chakula iko huko. Hata mnajua kuna wale wakulima wa mahindi wanasema wanunuliwe chakula. Ni gani wanasema wanunuliwe? Si ni kumaanisha kuna mahindi kwa gala saa. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri tuelewe ya kwamba usalama wa chakula unadhihirishwa kwa kutazama chakula ile iko kwa nchi, si ile iko kwa mikono ya serikali. Wakati serikali inahitaji chakula kupeana, serikali itapeana pesa. Na saa hii ile tunafanya saa hii katika hii mpango ya kupambana na COVID-19, tumechukua data. Kuna kamati ile inaitwa Command Center ambayo inachukua data kuhakikisha tunajua yule anahitaji chakula hako wapi, hako Kibera, pande gani na ni wangapi katika taifa lote. Kuna mwanya kidogo ya chakula hasa mahindi kutoka kwa mwezi wa Juni, mwisho wa mwezi wa Juni, na ndio cabinet ikapitisha mswada ya kwamba wale ambao wanahusika kusiaga mahindi wapewe nafasi wanunue mahindi nje ya Kenya, mahindi gunia milioni 2 waje waweze kusaidia kusiba hiyo mwanya.
Now, following the COVID-19 pandemic in the country that has hit the entire world, learning activities in schools have been barred. With the schools closed, many students have been forced to stay at home. However, a new mode of learning has emerged and seems to be growing exponentially across the country. Online learning is the new mode embraced by Anatolia Education Center here in the country that offers courses for IGCSE students.
With learning being barred due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the education sector is about to be revamped, just as many industries in the country are going remote.
So today, we are going to learn transformations of functions. I think I told you about that yesterday, right?
The latest learning mode has been embraced by the use of technology that comprises of systems like video conferencing platforms such as Zoom, WebEx and Google Classrooms. Anatolia Education Center, located along Kiricho Road, is the first online education center in the country to embrace the opportunity. But what exactly inspired it? Anatolia Education Center's director Tugba Saglem explains.
Initially, we were teaching at the center and we had a variety of students. When the COVID-19 began in Kenya, we decided to start online learning, which is the most suitable and the practical method at the moment. We want students and parents not to feel disengaged in education.
The reason why we are doing it for 5 months is because we are targeting the upcoming October-November exams. Hopefully everything will be okay and we will have those exams as scheduled.
With this reality that has forced the crash course online learning plans and technology for students and faculty, what are the expectations of this online program?
What we have capitalized on is the use of the Google Classroom, which makes it a lot easier for the teachers to organize their work and provide study materials to the students. At the same time, the teachers are able to give the students assignments that they can do while at home. This is something that has worked in a lot of the developed countries. They adapted it way before us, and it's been successful so far. So we thought it better if we try to keep up with the developed world as well from our side.
When you look at this graph, it was a +2. The graph will shift left by how many units?
It's 1 month since schools were closed in Kenya, and many students have been at home, with the majority of them staying helpless, especially those sitting in for their national examinations this year. According to UNESCO, the number of students affected by school and university closures in 138 countries worldwide has nearly quadrupled to 1.37 billion, with nearly 60.2 million teachers no longer being in the classroom. However, with such enterprises such as the Education's giant online education program practiced by Anatolia Education Center, learning will be accelerated, making changes in the education sector that were already in the play. Milia Kisienya for Ebru TV.
As the country battles with the increasing cases of COVID-19, the county government of Uasin Gishu in the Rift Valley has intensified the war against illicit brew, saying they are encouraging gatherings, putting revelers at the risk of being infected with the virus, as our health affairs reporter Winnie Lubembe explains in the following report.
Alichapa mimi marungu na kupoko. Akanichapa, akaenda kutoa nini ile vitu na alikuwa teleta nini pale. Akakuja kunimwakia.
Lydia Keegan narrates her ordeal in the hands of an assistant chief who led a crackdown on illicit brew in Kapngetun village. She says she's been forced to make the illegal brew for a lack of other income-generating activities. However, Uasin Gishu County Commissioner Abdikadir Jaldesa says the woman has other sources of income.
Kwanza hiyo mama anakula pesa ya serikali ya disable. Akona eka 40 ya shamba. Amepatiwa zile wheelchairs 2 na serikali through social development. Amejengewa nyumba na viongozi wetu. Hiyo inamaanisha nini? Wale wanapika hii brew wanapika kwa sababu ile faida pesa iko ndani, sio kwa sababu ya umaskini.
Viola Maiyo from Koiluget village in Uasin Gishu County also found herself on the receiving end of the administrators.
Na hiyo pombe haikuwa yangu. Walikuja nayo, walifika wao kupata chochote. Wakapasua mitundu, wakatoa kwa store wakapasua na wakanipiga.
In Kibulgeny village on the outskirts of Eldoret town, one family has had to endure cold nights. They claim administrators cracking down on the bootleg brew reduced their home to rubble.
Milango zote ziko wazi, huko nyuma kuko wazi. Na ufueka sasa mimi kama security watchman nakaa pale nikijunga mifugo yangu, nikijunga turonga, siwezi ndalala wapi.
Na bado wale watu wenye wananipiga vita wanaendelea kujigamba, wanasema hiyo nyumba ikirudishwa kuboma tena, hiyo nyumba bado itakuja waleta katapila, nyumba ifunikwe chini.
Nick Omito, a human rights activist in Eldoret, has termed the move by the chiefs as brutal.
Kulikuwa na njia mbadala ya kudeal na maneno ya buza. Angeshika mama mpeleka katika kituo cha polisi na mama peleka kotini, lakini sio kumdhulumu. Vile tumesema tunapeana ultimatum ya 21 days kama serikali itachukulia huyo chief na hao maskari ambao walifutena hiki kitendo hatua, tutaenda kotini under private prosecution, tutapatia mama wakili wa pro bono ambao tayari tumesha procure. Tunaongojea siku 21.
The county commissioner has however warned against lawlessness owing to the fact that the courts had scaled down operations. The commissioner added that the government will not relent on the war against the rampant cases of illegal brews in the county. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
Sports anxiety has gripped the Kenya Wheelchair Basketball Federation, KWBF, men's and women's national teams over a looming ban by the International Wheelchair Basketball Association. IWBF. The two teams fear that they may not feature in any international competition in the coming days should KWBF fail to pay Kenya shillings 2 million fine imposed on them by the IWBF. This, of course, was in regard to sending teams to African qualifiers for Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games held from March the 1st to 7th in South Africa. The teams were forced to pull out of the competition 3 days to kick off after the government failed to keep its word of providing them with travel tickets. Thank you for staying with us here on the broadcast. Of course, that's where we come to an end here on the program. But coming up next is News Compass, a discussion that regards the ruling Jubilee Party, the crisis in the ruling party, and of course the issue that regards ideology and policies that has been lacking in the Kenyan political establishment ever since 1992. And as you can see on your screens, the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Farah Maalim, will be joining us shortly after the break here on the broadcast in regard to that. And of course, you will be joining us for that discussion here on the broadcast, which will be starting after the break here on the program. The hashtag on Twitter is News Compass. The short SMS code is 40920. Stay tuned for that discussion after the break.